Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is only my second video ever and it's going to be a quick update video on my missing pet. So in my last video, my snake Iris was nowhere to be found. I went to take her out and the lid was completely locked down. Everything seemed normal. I saw her the night before in her tank and I opened it and she was not in there. She's very small, she's a very tiny snake, she's very thin, and king snakes, she's a Mexican black king snake, they're known for being escape artists. So I searched forever, even in that video. You saw the back of my room. Back here was a complete mess, like halfway or a little earlier on in the video. So I was looking for her for a very long time, and then I decided that I'm just going to continue the video because I got all ready, I had all my animals ready to film it, so I just continued to film it. So we were missing one animal, that's it, in that entire video. And I've never actually lost an animal before. That's never happened. I've owned animals since I was very, very little. I don't even know what age. And I had never lost animals. I've had mice, I've had rats, guinea pigs, rabbits, farm animals, tons of different reptiles, and I've never ever lost one. And that was the first time I had ever lost one. So my boyfriend ended up coming over later in the day after work and he helped me look. He looked through all of the areas that I had already looked through and we didn't find her. She was not in my room. She was not in my closet. She was not, behind my bed. And in this video, I'm also going to go over things you can do if you do lose a snake in your house somewhere, because there are a couple things that can really help you find them or help you figure out where they are. And luckily, we actually didn't have to use any of those because we did find her. So we found Iris that night, and very late at night, we found her in my grandma's room. So she actually got out of her tank through a teeny tiny crack on the top of the lid. There's in the corners, there's a little opening because apparently the top had been askew a bit, even though it was locked on. It was literally smaller than my pinky finger. She managed to just squeeze out. I don't know how she didn't hurt herself, but she's fine. She's absolutely fine. She's eaten since, she's pooped since, she's drank since. So we found her in my grandma's room, which is basically right there, right outside my room. So she got out of her tank, went down. I thought my chickens had eaten her. They didn't, luckily. And she hugged the wall, that's something that snakes will do. When they get out of an enclosure, they feel safer if they're either hidden or hugging a wall. So always look along the edge of the room. That's where you will most likely find a snake, or you'll find traces of where they have been. So she was just under some clothes in my grandma's room, kind of on the floor near her dresser, and I just moved some clothes because we didn't find her in my room or the bathroom or the closet. We were the next room closest is here, and we looked and there she was. So I was so happy and so relieved, and I'm so happy that my cats and my chickens and my tegu, nothing found her, nothing got to her. Because all my animals are safe and secure away in their own enclosures, or not where any other animals can get to them. But if they do happen to escape, there are other animals in my house that could possibly eat them or hurt them in some way. So I am so thankful that my animals didn't get to her at all. And she didn't have a scratch on her. She seemed happy as could be. She's like, oh, look what I did, I got out. And I think because I've had her in this one enclosure. It's a 20-gallon long with a metal top with lots of latches on it. But the top, apparently, it's an old top. So the top was just bent a little bit and I didn't even know. You could only tell if you looked under the tank from inside. But this had never happened and I've had her for about a year now. So it must have been that it got a little extra warped due to the temperature in here, or it just happened to be perfectly lined up that there was that little gap. So I have another lid. I switched the lid out to a newer lid and we double checked that no matter how we put it on or move it or slide it, that it will not come off. So we're 100% sure that she is not getting out unless someone left the tank open, which that's never happened either in all my years of having animals. I'm super anxious and super cautious about anything like that happening, because these animals are my babies, and that's one of the reasons I made this channel, is because I want to share my passion for animals with everyone. I am a zookeeper, like that's my job at work, is I'm an educator and a zookeeper, so I take care of animals at work, and I also educate people on animals, and I absolutely love it. So I want to, you know, contribute a little bit more and do a little bit more, because I have so many animals and exotic animals at home, and I know a lot of people like to hear about things that happen with people who have exotic animals and conservation, which I want to touch on a little bit later in my videos, and things like that too. So I'm going to grab Iris. So she's feisty. She's very small, so she's very scared. So I'm not gonna have her out too long, but I do want to show you guys her because she's very cute, and I didn't get to show her to you in the last video. She hasn't eaten recently. Like she ate at her normal time, but I don't want to handle her right after she eats because that can cause them to regurgitate and stuff, but she's all good. So I'm gonna take her out. I'm gonna show you guys how adorable she is. So of course, when I go to show you guys Iris, she is in blue. So she's not as dark black as she normally is. She's a little bit gray. Her scales on the very top are lifting off, so there's air in between. So she's going to shed soon, so that kind of dulls out her color. You can see she's a little bit mad. You'll see she shakes her tail because she thinks she's a big, strong rattlesnake. Oh, she's not really doing it right now. She's getting a lot better. She used to be insane, and I would take her out and she would just poop and pee all over me and just lose her mind and freak out. But oh, there she goes. There's her little tail. There it goes. There goes her little tail. But she's getting so much better. And yeah, so she doesn't look as good as she normally does, because you can see her eyes are a little dull. Oh, if it focuses. Hello, focus. Her eyes are a little dull. Her scales are a little dull. But that's really good that she's going to shed soon. You don't usually want to handle snakes that much when they are about to shed, just because they can't really see. It's very stressful for them. But I'm only having her out for a few minutes, and I almost never take her out because she is just so tiny, and she does get stressed easily. So I don't usually take her out much anyway. She's freaking out. I'm moving my hands too much. But I did want to show you guys her because she is very cute. And as she gets older, I'm going to do more videos with her where I'm actually more handling her, because I want you guys to see how cool she's going to look when she's older. They get pretty big. They get about the size of like a large corn snake. So the snake I showed you guys in my previous video, Citrus, my corn snake, she is going to be about the same size as her, and she's actually going to be part of a breeding project. So my boyfriend has a male Mexican black king snake named Toothless, and he is pure black. The person he got him from, the breeder he got him from, it bred for the purest black possible Mexican black king snakes, because sometimes they'll have like white patches and things like that, but his doesn't have any of that. But sadly, the breeder discontinued breeding them, so we want to continue that. So because he has that amazing snake, and I have Iris, who is the most pure black that I was able to find, female-wise. There's a lot of people who breed Mexican black king snakes, and a lot of them are kind of diluted. They don't really have that pure black color. They have a lot of white on their bellies and their chins, even when they're older. I made sure to find one that didn't have that. They're not related at all. So once Iris gets bigger, which it'll be a while, her and Toothless are going to breed, and they're going to have some babies, and we're going to try to keep that dark black genetic color. So we'll breed the darkest possible ones together to get the darkest possible babies. I think they're an amazing snake, a really good, actually, even though they're a little bit of an escape artist, they're a really good beginner snake. A lot of colubrids like corn snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, they're all really good snakes to start with. They don't require crazy temperatures, they don't require like humidity really, and you just use like aspen. It's not as hard to regulate as like something like a ball python or a boa or even a hognose. So they're really, really good snakes. I highly recommend them. But that's Iris, and I just really wanted to show you guys her. She's currently feeding on pinkies, so little pinky mice, because she's still so tiny. Yeah, and that's her. So I'm going to put her back, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can do if you do find that you have a missing snake. Alright, so the main thing you want to do when you first find your snake is missing is look in the tank again. This sounds kind of silly, and I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, I already looked, But a lot of people will think they lost any reptile really, and turns out they're just hiding inside their enclosure somewhere, which I've had that happen where I freaked out and thought I lost one, but it was just inside its enclosure. My boyfriend thought he lost one of his little geckos, and he tore apart the enclosure and he took everything out and he put it on his bed, and he looked on his bed after freaking out, and one of the little geckos was under a leaf on one of the plants that he had taken out, which that little gecko could have gotten out and escaped, and that would have been terrible. But you really have to examine the, you know, any new things you've put in there that they might be hiding under, places that you don't normally find them. Even along the very edge, if you have them in a tank, sometimes little snakes will climb above like the lip and the very lid, and they'll kind of squeeze and climb like they're like a snake monkey, and they'll just go around in circles up there. So sometimes the snake will be there, so you'll take the lid off and you'll put the lid down and you'll look in the tank, but turns out they're actually on the lid still. Under water bowls, that's another place that people don't realize. There's usually like a little crevice under a water bowl, and snakes are strong, so they can squeeze underneath the water bowl even if there isn't a little crevice. So sometimes your snake or lizard or whatever it is might be underneath the water bowl, buried in the substrate obviously, and they could be stuck inside something that you put in there and didn't realize there was like a hole. So make sure you thoroughly check the exhibit first before coming to the conclusion that your snake did escape and it's not in there at all. So after you do that, take everything out of the exhibit, really look, and then you want to keep the exhibit open. So you want to make it welcoming, because sometimes, very rarely, reptiles, they'll come back and they're going to be seeking out heat. So you want to make a heat trap, which it's not really a trap. You could set up a trap as long as it's humane, obviously, because you're trying to get your animal. But just putting some kind of like heat lamp or heat pad on a thermostat, something in a warm area. Usually people will do it where they have their tank open and they'll put like a heat lamp, or just leave the heat lamp or heating device on, so the snake will come back seeking out heat, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to seek out heat. They're in a house that's room temperature, 70, 72 degrees, whatever you keep your house at, probably isn't enough to satisfy the snake's need for heat. So they're going to try to find heat. So one thing you can do is create a heat trap. The other thing is look where there is heat. So a lot of people will find snakes behind the refrigerator. That's one of the most common places that I've had friends lose their snakes and find them, because your refrigerator lets out heat. Behind or underneath the refrigerator. You can also find them underneath the oven. Any appliances that you use pretty often. TVs get very warm. Sometimes you'll find snakes coiled behind TVs, under your Xbox. So look places where it might be very warm. The other thing you can do is leave out flour. So if there's an area you think the snake might be in, or you want to just coat your whole house with it, it's safe for the snake, it's not going to harm your snake. You can just put flour down, especially around the edges and trim of the floor, like where the wall meets the floor, because like I said before, your snake's probably sticking to the walls. So put flour down and you'll be able to see tracks, and you'll know if your snake is in that room or not. And something that not everyone's able to do, but you absolutely could do and would help a lot, is if you had some type of camera that you were able to set up and watch in that one room where you think the snake might be. But one of the main places you want to look is inside things that you couldn't normally get into. So you want to go onto the floor, you want to crawl around on the floor, and you want to look as if you were a snake. Where would you go if you were a little tiny scared snake? Or maybe it's a big snake that you lost too, but they usually find those pretty quickly, like if it's a boa constrictor or something. But this is mainly for like smaller snakes. Look inside drawers, but not only inside, under drawers. You have to look under things. But be very careful when you're moving things, because you do not want to squish the snake. Remember, the snake is probably hiding against the corner of something. So if you pull out a dresser or a drawer, don't do it fast, do it very slow. If there's any type of, what's the word? If it's not coming, then don't keep pulling, because the snake might be in there and it might be underneath something or stuck. The other thing is, if you do have animals like dogs and cats that roam your house, be prepared for the worst, hope for the best, be prepared for the worst. If you have animals that like to stash things, like if your cat or dog or ferrets like to stash things they find, look in those little stash areas. You might not find what you want. You might find your snake not moving. You might find them injured, but you will hopefully at least find them. But hopefully that's not the outcome. But I'm just want to let you know, like, if you do have animals roaming around your house, a little snake is a fun toy for them. But I have 2 cats that as soon as there's a mouse or something, they'll get it and they'll play with it, bugs, anything. And my snake was very good and careful and stayed along the walls and went underneath my grandma's door into her like dresser area. You want to look inside clothes. So opening a drawer up and looking inside the drawer isn't really enough. You want to actually take all the clothes out that is in there, any purses, anything like that. Look inside every pocket, shake all the clothes out, not too violently because you don't want to fling your snake. But that's basically where Iris was found. She was inside one of my grandma's shirts that was on the floor. So I kind of lifted it up and she just fell out. So look inside things. If you have stuffed animal, like a pile of stuffed animals, look inside the pile of stuffed animals. If you have a stuffed animal that has a hole in it, look inside the stuffed animal. There's a lot of places that people just don't think to look. Remember how small the animal you're looking for is. If you have windows that are open and it's warm outside, they might have gotten outside, so you're gonna have to go outside and look. And snakes don't stay in one place. So if it's been, more than a day, it's been, a couple days, your snake could be anywhere in the house. It doesn't mean it's gonna necessarily stay in that room it got out in. To help with this, you can absolutely close the doors if you think the snake is probably in there, but just make sure if you do set up a heat trap or something along those lines, that the snake is able to access it from any room. So you wanna keep all doors open, not outside obviously, but all doors open. Any little closet or things that you think they might be able to go in and get out of, make sure it's open so they can access the heat trap. Yeah, so those are just a couple of things that can help you find a snake, but remember, they do usually stick to the walls and they're looking for heat. So look in places that are very warm and places that seem very safe and secure. So that was really it for today's video. I will be obviously uploading a lot more in the future. I'm going to try to upload at least once a week, hopefully more than that. I don't have a set schedule yet for uploads, but I'm going to try to make one. So yeah, so please remember to subscribe, like the video, leave comments, leave suggestions for things you want to see with any of my animals, any fun things that you might want to see. Yeah, so hope you have a great rest of your day or night or whatever you're doing. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.